everyone. Welcome back to ISSA Talk on Corrective Exercise Part 2. Today, we're going to be talking about what you should be doing to implement a corrective exercise program. And we have as our very special guest, none other than Dr. Chad Waterbury. Welcome, Chad.
Hey, Erin, it's great to be here.
So Dr. Waterbury, not only is he the author of ISSA's corrective exercise course and ISSA's strength and conditioning course, but he's extremely esteemed. He's received his DPT from USC and also his MS in physiology from the University of Arizona. He's also an expert in strength and conditioning, like I mentioned, with his other publication with ISSA, but also physical therapy, and he's hands-on. He trains athletes of all levels to keep them feeling great and functioning their best. So I'm very excited to have him here. He's published hundreds of articles. I could keep going on about him, but I think he's more excited to talk about how to implement a corrective exercise program with everyday fitness professionals. Right, Chad?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this course that I created, the corrective exercise course, it's so valuable for any trainer, physical therapist, strength coach, because what we want to do here is I want to help them have the most tools in their toolbox. So when they see a client that comes in or has a cranky shoulder or an aching knee or whatever, then he or she will know what to look for out of the standard sort of programs or certifications you see out of there. It helps you think and understand the way the body moves, the way it functions on a much more global level, and know what's connected to what else. And if you have weakness here, what it might negatively affect when you're in the gym, whether it's your squat or your bench press, your overhead press or whatever. And that's what we're doing here. We're helping them get the right tools. So when he or she sees something and either through an assessment or through feedback from the client, they can be like, oh, here's something that I didn't know before that I learned from the corrective exercise course. And here's a quick 2-minute drill we're going to do to help you with that.
Perfect. And so for anyone that didn't watch part 1, Dr. Waterbury was talking about how all fitness professionals can benefit from corrective exercise, because really all clients can use corrective exercise, whether you're an elite athlete or an everyday person that's just trying to lose 10 or 20 pounds. We all have aches and pains and different things that can prevent us from feeling our best. And so knowing that, what is the first step, would you say, in implementing a corrective exercise program as a fitness professional?
Well, the first step is to identify the problem. And it might be very obvious. Like the person comes in and says, okay, I did a long hike with my spouse over the weekend and now my right knee hurts. So, all right, that's pretty obvious. We need to figure out, what's causing that, how we can maybe alleviate that. Or the other thing is, through the assessments that you'll learn in the course, you're going to see that it's like, oh, this joint actually doesn't move like the other one. Or based on the parameters I learned in the course, I realized that there's an issue here. And even though the person doesn't have pain or discomfort or whatever, then you can help educate that client and say, okay, well, when you do this with your left arm, you see how it feels different than your right arm? That's because this muscle or this joint is holding it back, and we need to correct that, because if we don't, then you might have shoulder pain or you might have elbow pain or whatever. So those are the two primary things that I'm after with this course. Is A, as I said, someone comes in with a problem, you're gonna have a better skill set to help figure out which exercise might be able to help alleviate that. Or the other side of the coin is you're going to identify a problem before it becomes painful, before it becomes a real problem.
Excellent. And you wrapped it up perfectly. Going back to where you started, which is identifying the problem, one thing that I noticed that seems a little unique in a great way than I've seen with some other approaches to corrective exercise is you start with a single joint movement, just to see, can they isolate one section of their body? Whereas some other approaches are, jumping right into multi-joint. So if you can, talk me through a little bit more about that importance of looking at just one joint at a time to see if they can maintain everything as a professional narrows down their focus of what the problem is.
Yeah, that's true. But getting back to what you said, there is a time and a place for the big global movements.
Mhm.
So, for instance, someone comes in and says, "Well, I have it just feels weird when I squat," for instance. And you might have that person just do a regular body weight squat. Just say, "Okay, squat for me." And based on what you see there, it's like, "Oh, okay, they're shifting their hips to one side or whatever." Then it's like, okay, I know there's a problem within that chain, but then you have to be able to break it down and see where the problem is coming from. It could be the hip, it could be the knee, it could be the ankle. And that's why you have to isolate the joint, because the number one cause of a poor squat is inflexibility of the ankle. But it could be knee pain. As I said, it could be something up in the hip. So that's what I teach you how to do. It's like, okay, here we're looking at a big movement. We see there's a problem, and then which joints are effective and how to do a quick assessment of each one of those joints until we narrow it down into, in this case, it might be, oh, their calves are really stiff on their left side. And that's what's causing this faulty squat pattern. And then you learn, what you should do to address that.
Got it. I got lost in your words and thinking about my foot and ankle flexibility or flexibility in my calf muscles. But let me ask you this. So you were talking about, sometimes start global, sometimes then go single joint. Is there one, do you always start global and then start isolating down? Or is it kind of the art of the assessment and digging until you feel like you're able to form a hypothesis?
For a client who's new to a personal trainer, I always start with big global movements. I just want to see how they move. Okay. But if it's someone you've been working with for a long time, you sort of know how they move already, and then they come in and they say, my shoulder is aching or my knee, something going on, then you can sort of start to isolate it because you already sort of know how they move. But as a general rule, it's good to start with big global movements and then start to break it down more and more and more until you isolate it and find, oh, here's the problem. There's stiffness here or there's weakness here. And that's, the strategy that works well for almost any personal trainer.
So makes sense. And you were talking about for somebody that you're seeing for the first time, what, you were also talking in part one about how you had previously been a strength and conditioning coach before you achieved your doctorate in physical therapy. Was there any challenge in implementing with retro clients to say, oh, wow, I just learned all this. I know I've been working with you for a year, but now I want to show you this new thing. How would you make recommendations for people to do that?
In my experience, all of my clients loved it because these people are paying personal trainers good money for this, and they want to have a personal trainer that has the best skill set possible. And when you learn something that's very applicable to the person, then they usually respond with open arms. Now, here's what I mean. If you have a client who has a nagging right shoulder, because this client likes to play tennis all the time, but you learn something about the ankle, for instance, then, they might not really be interested. It's like, my ankles are fine. I never had any issues there. But you take what you learn from the course and make it applicable to each client. So I have, you might say, okay, I have someone with a right shoulder issue. I have someone with a left knee issue. I have someone with a right ankle issue. And then take what you learn in the course and apply it to that. And you can say, oh, Mr. X, your client, how you've been having this right ankle issue, and we haven't had a lot of success with it. We tried some stretching and it didn't really help too much, but I just learned this new technique, and let's see how it works. And let's see what you're having problems with. Maybe it's with his lunge or whatever. Say, okay, so do a lunge for me. How does that feel? And he's like, okay, well, yeah, I feel it in my right ankle. It's stiff, kind of hurts. Do the corrective technique. Here's this new corrective technique I learned to help free up the ankle. Now do the lunge again, and they do it. And they're like, wow, it feels better. It feels looser, whatever. They are sold. They are very happy to write the check that day.
That makes sense. And, as personal trainers, strength and conditioning coaches go through their own knowledge seeking and investing in their own knowledge, really, truly, the person or the client is getting the benefit out of that, even if they've been working together for a while. So there shouldn't be any concern about, oh my gosh, should I implement this or not? They're going to be welcoming it with open arms, I think is what I heard you say.
100%, absolutely, because what everyone wants to see is whoever that person is paying to do a service, they want to see that that person is constantly trying to evolve and learn more and more. You go to seminars, you take certification courses, and then your clients are going to be like, wow, this person is not happy with just being stagnant, even though this person is good at what he or she does, constantly trying to learn newer, better ways, faster ways to overcome issues in the joints or whatever. And I think everyone can really appreciate that. I certainly know I would. Whoever it is, whether it's my accountant or a massage therapist or someone who's working on my car or whatever, that when I know that that person is constantly trying to learn newer and better ways to do things, then I'm all in. And I think most people feel the same way.
I totally agree. As we were talking in our previous webinar, part 1, you were talking about how movement in the frontal plane and also glutes tend to be a big issue. I'm going to take it in a different way and say, during this pandemic, it seems a lot of people have turned to running as their primary method of exercise, or body weight exercise. And so assuming that a lot of the world is using this as their forms of exercise with gyms shut down and so on and so forth, what are some of the things that clients or just general population might be experiencing from doing this type of activity over and over and over? Where's their dysfunction going to be?
Oh boy, if they're doing a lot of running, the dysfunction can be anywhere typically from their toes to their mid-back. That entire kinetic chain, because that's what's working over and over and over. And I'm glad you mentioned that about running, because we have a saying in physical therapy, in strength conditioning world as well, amongst the people who really understand this to a great degree. Don't run to get fit to run, because it's like running. If you're not used to running, it's like, okay, I'm going to start running for 30 minutes today. And if you think about how much stress that is through the tissues, if your ankle is a little bit too stiff, or you have a fallen arch, or weakness in the hips and the knee is buckling in each time you run and you don't even realize it, then you're going to have problems occur. And speaking of glutes and speaking of running, what I'm referring to is when I say the knee buckles in, that's called knee valgus, which I talk a lot about in the corrective exercise course. The knee valgus is when you imagine someone who usually it's maybe a teenager who's grown really fast and sort of like uncoordinated and such, and you see that person jump and then land, and they land and the knees buckle together, right? That's knee valgus, and that is like one of the primary causes of knee pain. And we can talk about ACL tears and ankle problems and all that as well. But if your glutes are weak in the frontal and transverse planes, as I got into in our last discussion, then what will happen is when you're running, each time your foot lands, that knee will buckle inward. Even if it's just a minuscule amount and you're not even aware of it, the untrained eye can't even see it. You don't have any pain, whatever, but that is happening. So I'm talking about someone who hasn't been running, and now it's like, okay, I'm going to run now during the pandemic, and you go out and you jog for 30 minutes, and each time that knee is buckling in, and it's causing a strain on the tissues. And think how many times, let's say it's your right knee, think how many times your right foot is touching the ground when you jog for 30 minutes. I mean, thousands of times. So you have all these little micro traumas, thousands and thousands of times, and it's not enough to cause knee pain or a real injury the first time, or maybe the second time, but then the third time you go out running, it's like, I'm doing this every other day. I promised myself I would, because I got out of shape because of the pandemic. But now you've crossed the threshold. You've got enough micro trauma in the knee joint from that valgus each time, even though it was minuscule. But now it's like, oh, you know, this third time I ran this week, now my knee sort of hurts. Then they're going to their doctor. And the doctor says, well, you know, and I'm not here to bash any MD or any doctor, but I'm just saying what's common.
Mhm.
So the doctor looks at the knees. You got right knee pain. Okay. Oh, what were you doing? You were running. Okay. Well, here's a prescription. Take these pills, you know, and that will help alleviate the pain. Well, you have not addressed the cause of the problem at all. And then you keep running. I got pills, and keep running. And you keep doing the knee valgus. And then one day you wake up and now you have a lot of pain. So now you're going to a physical therapist that you need to get the referral from your doctor. And now you're going down that whole rabbit hole. And depending on how good the physical therapist is, you might be going to physical therapy for weeks and weeks and weeks, and, you know, all this stuff and the expense, the time and all that. Or we can just eliminate that whole storyline, and you can learn the skill set to test someone's hip abduction or hip external rotation strength and be like, okay, I see a real problem on your right side or on both sides. And you just told me you want to start jogging, and we have to do this first. Okay. You can, we need to spend, you know, some time strengthening up these glute muscles in this. And then you're going to give a prescription of, okay, you can start, you know, with a fast walk instead, because instead of going straight to a jog. So it's just about good programming from that point. But my bottom line though is that first example I gave is what most people encounter. You know, they just start doing an exercise, a little bit of pain, go to the doctor, get pain pills, they keep doing it. And no one has identified what the problem is. In this case, it was weakness of the glutes in the transverse and frontal planes. And that's what I am trying to teach personal trainers how to identify. So hopefully we can like reduce healthcare costs, you know, for going to doctors and going to physical therapists and all that. It's like, let's have the trainer have the skill set to identify, to be the first line of defense and be like, oh, here's a problem. We're going to correct this so we don't have bigger problems, i.e. expensive problems, time-consuming problems further down the line.
Yes, absolutely. That would be fantastic. You know, you were talking about, you know, starting off with a fast walk and then progressing it. And what a light bulb went off in my head, because I mean, the difference in calorie, well, depending on how fast you're running, you're still going to be able to burn calories. And the difference between walking with good form and not damaging your body versus aggressively going after some weight loss goal or some other, you know, race goal that you might have is pretty big, right? And so it makes sense to get, well, you said it when we started, didn't you? Get in shape to run, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Any specific exercises that you think would help? Sorry about that. Any specific exercises that you think would help get somebody in shape to run?
The one I just mentioned would be great. It depends on where the dysfunctions are, but you want to have really, really strong glutes for starters. You want to have strong calves. Like each person should be able to do 25 single leg standing calf raises through a full range of motion. So you take your shoes off, you can just test this at home. You take your shoes off, you just do it from the floor, stand on your left leg, keep your left leg perfectly straight. From the first rep, however high you go up, every subsequent rep needs to be that high up. As soon as you start to lose your height, then the test is over. You should be able to do 25 continuous reps through a full range of motion on each side. And calf strength, glute strength, those are two huge, huge factors, because when those muscles are weak, it will throw off your running form. And when the running form is thrown off, the joints get stressed. And when joints get stressed, you have joint pain. And then you have that whole cascade of events that will come afterwards. So those are the two areas that I would start with. Those are the main things that I see. And then there's other things that we can look at, which is like stiffness along the lateral thigh and these other things that I cover in the course. But that'd be a good place to start. And getting back to what you said about walking instead of jogging, is like, well, that's, you know, I don't want to walk, you know, I want to burn a lot of calories and get in shape. This conversation is not a lot about metabolic cost and all these factors, but I just want to say really quickly, actually walking fast burns more calories than jogging. If you think about it, because when you're jogging, you get a lot of elastic rebound. Okay, so you're sort of like, in fact, if you have someone walk really fast as he or she can, that person in their brain is like, their brain is telling them, start jogging, because it's actually easier. You're going to preserve energy. So from a get fit to run standpoint, that's what I have people do. I have people do a walk and then do a fast walk and then do like a really fast walk where they're moving their arms, and I want to be sure that we're strengthening their calves and strengthening their glutes, and they're doing the really fast walk. And then if they have, if they're close to a beach or whatever, they can do the fast walk through the sand, which is even more metabolically demanding. And then depending on what stage that person is in the fitness, then I would have that person walk with a backpack on. So they can put on a backpack, put 5 pounds in the backpack, 10 pounds in the backpack, do a really fast walk. And honestly, if we're just talking about a fitness standpoint, they would never even need to run, because there's lots of problems that can come with just running. So from a fitness standpoint, I would make the argument I could get someone just as in good a shape, if not better shape, by doing this walking progression, because it's endless. You can go faster and faster. You can put more weight in the backpack. There's lots of things you can do to offset the problems that come from just taking someone who's out of shape to, now I'm going to run to get in shape.
I am going to buy a weighted vest today because of this conversation. So I appreciate it. Chad, Dr. Waterbury, thank you for those takeaways. There is so much involved in your course. I know that you couldn't squeeze it into this short time frame, but I appreciate you trying. And I really appreciate you showing up to give everybody these tips and tricks and kind of shed light on the magic of corrective exercise and why it brings such a valuable and credible air to the fitness profession. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Erin. It's my pleasure. Let's do this again soon.
For sure.